birthday, kid.
Yeah.
What time is that?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
And we're coming on to you from Boulder Creek, California today. It's Mrs. Future and I, a.k.a. Al Lundell and son Lundell,
Yeah.
with our buddy Bobby Wilder
Yeah. Hi,
Covers-
Bobby.
Hey,
Who's-
hi everybody.
in
Wow.
San Francisco, where it's probably foggy, right?
It's foggy today, yes.
Yeah, there you
Unfortunately.
go. Okay. We're at sunny Boulder Creek.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to be able to go hang out with you in the fog for a while. And then we all go to a sunny spot in Marin for the Fairfax Music Festival on Sunday. That was a blessing. That was a lot of fun.
Now,
Yeah.
we would normally have another guest with us right now, but he's having technical difficulties.
His microphone dropped out.
Yeah, he dropped out. I don't know if it's his internet or what, but he's just been a little floaty,
Oh, okay, well,
symbols in limbo.
When we get Taylor on, we'll talk about Apple stuff.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there's plenty of other things to think about.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I know
Yeah,
he's
yeah, no
probably
worries.
trying to listen, and the poor guy is probably stressing, so I had to mention it.
Okay, try again, Taylor. Yeah, what's life without a few technical difficulties every so often, you know?
Indeed.
So, yeah, Bobby, it was great to see you and Katya in the sun, where it was sunny out. That was
Oh,
really
in
cool.
Fairfax,
In Fairfax,
at the Fairfax Festival, which was a
Yes.
3-stage gathering. And I say this is what is happening in the peaceful America, not the one that's in the mainstream news.
Yeah. People having a great time.
People are starting their
Yeah.
summertime. They're having beautiful gatherings in their local communities. There's all kinds of music. There's craft fairs. There's kids. There's booths that tell you how to get clean water and
You know what I didn't
better
see,
health.
though? You know what I didn't see?
What?
I didn't see any ice people.
Yeah, well, we hang with the rainbow people, Alan. Our crowd is pretty
Different
much
crowd.
not buying the garbage that's being fed to us from the mainstream media. And we still love each other. We never stopped. We're still living the dream of an America that works for everybody who's here. A lot of compassion for the people who are on the fear
Yeah.
trail. I'm very sad that so much hatred is being exercised yet again.
I know. Well, the sad part about this is how, well, I guess there are a lot of sad elements, but from a geek point of view, it's really sad that the rioters attacked the auto vehicles, the self-driving cars.
Yeah,
Why did
the
they pick on them?
Waymos, man? Well,
WTF.
anger is anger. See, this is why they always say that the real enemy is those who are trying to get us to hurt ourselves. And so the message, if we can always be whipped up into a mad frenzy,
Yeah.
then they can count on the most
Simple psychology.
unstable
Yeah?
people in the crowd to cause a problem and to escalate. And we're not interested in escalating. We've been trying to de-escalate for at least 10 years. And yet somehow the voices in the media are making a buck on making all of us less safe, less comfortable, make us feel
Yeah,
more
okay.
poor, even though there's more money circulating in the world. It's inflated values, and all of us feel poorer, even if we have twice as much as we ever had before. It only buys half
Yeah,
as
so you're
much.
saying don't buy into the mythology that's being spun by our mainstream press here.
That's right. We are the miracle people. Our beautiful, loving, connected consciousness. That's what really drives the planet. That is what is eternal.
The myth, your own myth.
We'll get through this transition as we have many times before. So focus on your own bliss and your own community and do your best to be of service and be loving and be hopeful. What? Are you talking to me?
No,
Who is that?
was well, of course, that was Bobby,
No, I
right,
forgot
Bobby?
to silence
No, it's
my
Taylor.
ringer.
Oh, excuse me.
Was that you, Taylor, finally?
Yeah, I forgot to silence my ringer.
Oh,
Well-
yeah.
Phone
Well,
ringer.
you're a dead ringer for that ringer.
I wish you could say you were a newbie, but no, you've done
My
this for a
sound
while.
volume correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, you sound great.
yeah.
Okay,
Bravo. And Bobby, luckily, it's sort of like reverse blessing. Bobby is extra loud today. And so he matches you now that you've brought your volume down. You guys are meeting in the middle. It's just
good. I don't
right.
know how to bring it down or up.
Yeah, okay, well,
It is what it is.
I see. I'm
okay,
glad
well,
you're there.
You know,
Taylor's out of control.
know.
maintain your enthusiasm.
So, Bobby, do you have any theories about why people are attacking the autonomous vehicles? in L.A. and in San Francisco,
because,
too.
The autonomous vehicles don't know how to retaliate.
Is that
They
it?
can't fight back.
They
Those
can't
people
fight
are
back, huh?
bullies and they want to pick on people who won't resist. So resist, people. Don't let the bullies get the better of you. And you too, robots. You
Yeah.
too, Waymo cars. Resist.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting that in the riot scene in downtown LA on Sunday that people torched several of them. And then I understand that several got torched in San Francisco as well.
I don't know what this, I guess this is
Really?
like the
Yeah.
anti-robot. Like this is the people who are afraid that Terminator is real.
They engulfed them in flames. They had broken windshields, doors ripped from the hinges, spray painted graffiti on them, much of which attacked ICE.
That's very rude behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. Well, we listened to some behind the scenes man in the street in LA in the riots to really see what was going on.
Yeah, we watched a very lengthy live report from the gathering of, it looked like there were definitely thousands of people there, and it started out fairly peaceful. And it was around the federal building where the ICE detentions were taking place. And
I think
there
it was
were,
only a few hundred. I don't think it was thousands.
well, the guy in the street, I'm just taking his word for it. I wasn't there. There were a lot of people in a few blocks. But then we also saw from our friend Alex Utterman on Facebook, she said, you know, to a certain degree, this is manufactured propaganda because she lives in LA and it's not on fire and it's a small neighborhood. And of course, we've experienced that. We've
Yeah.
experienced.
You can turn a molehill into a mountain easily with media.
Yeah. But that said, the live reporter did, over the course of about 40 minutes of coverage, go from a fairly peaceful protest to pointing out a group of about a dozen people that had arrived and were in a circle off by themselves, off to the side, giving each other their game plan. It was like a football huddle. And within 5 minutes of him showing us that, all of a sudden there are angry, violent threats coming out, and the police are being pelted with, it started with water. And at a certain point, the police, somebody broke one of their shields and they were being prevented. One of us has to turn off. This is our water system turning on in the middle of the show because it just doesn't recognize
water
radio
system.
silence for us.
Hey, water system, shut up. Sun's talking.
Oh,
there it
thank
goes.
you.
Okay.
I'm glad it
Yeah,
listens to you.
especially when
Yeah,
sun's
see, it listens to me. It listens to me usually.
Anyway, the point is that it did ramp up and get ugly. And as the crowd got ugly, the cops got ugly. And the cops wanted to recede at a certain point, and they were being prohibited from doing that by the crowd. They started shooting these horrible rubber bullets. I had never seen one of these things before. They're like a little hand-sized barrel. They're at least an inch in diameter and about 1.25 to 2 inches long.
That's true.
A little cylinder, and
They're
that's
kind of
See
nasty,
that
but
female Australian reporter get hit by a bullet?
yeah, and I saw that was an amazing piece of footage where you just saw this cop point right into the camera where this reporter from Australia was talking about the riots, and boom, it got her in the butt, and it was shocking. It was shocking to see this guy. He was so unprovoked. It was so belligerent. It was so offensive.
emotionally it was disturbing. What kind of tech was that, though? What was that?
Those rubber
It
bullets?
looked like a Nerf gun that the cop was. Yeah, it almost looked comical. It was bright colors.
they were yellow, right?
Yeah, it
These
looks like a
rubber bullet
toy gun.
guns. They do.
Yeah.
They look like they're out of a video
Sort of
game.
a Fantasyland movie of some sort.
I see Taylor is shopping. He's got his savings catalog out.
I got my new Costco instant savings catalog for
Yeah.
June 18th through July 20th.
You know,
Well, no need to share that. I
okay.
just thought it was funny.
The strangest thing I saw, these riot footage, was somebody has a can of, and it wasn't mace or it wasn't anything you would think it would be at a riot. It was a can of something called silly strings.
Oh yeah, silly string. I remember
Silly
you used
strings?
that at
Yeah.
Halloween to make
never-
fake cobwebs.
Is that what it does? Because I've never used silly strings.
Yeah. Silly string is kind of one of these things that shoots a polymer out of a can in a drippy string format, and you can use it to make your place look ghoulish. It's usually considered kind of a fun toy, even though it's very polluting.
Yeah. Now I was trying to figure out, why would they take that to a riot? Why would silly strings fit in at a protest?
Well, I guess somebody thought it would look cool. A lot of this is optics, right?
It did get on the news. That's, well, at least the news I saw.
Sure. It's safer than mace, right?
If you're wondering, some firsthand videos of this stuff, you can go to X and look for Nick Shirley. Like 2 first names here, Nick and Shirley.
Yeah, my compliments to Nick Shirley. I thought he was very brave because he was very open. He was not wearing a mask. He was not wearing any kind of protective clothing. He just had his phone and he was getting people to say what they were chanting and why they were there and why they were carrying flags from other countries if this was a protest against the U.S. government. And of course, it's in a traditionally Spanish area of Los Angeles. And so I guess that was the flavor of the anger, is that the ICE building is in a largely Spanish neighborhood. So, of course, the immigration question really focused on the Hispanic community there.
I'm going to play you a minute from it just so you get the feeling for the event.
Now that people are trying to block ICE from leaving this place, they're throwing garbages here onto the streets, trashing it.
Right now, that's your city. This is how the charity works.
I wouldn't look forward to getting arrested for doing that. I would stay home.
Mass protester.
I don't want to get
You have this guy
arrested for
taunting, messing
talking
with the
to
police.
cops and
He's
stuff.
gotten thrown a few times by the police, and he's keeping on going back to him too. This guy right here just got pushed by the police after he's pushing at them. Police threw him down, and he keeps going after them. How do you feel about the police coming through here today?
They're
I talked
fascists.
to a cop.
Quit their goddamn jobs.
Then get out of the fucking road.
These are the same streets where the riots took place in 2020 after the George Floyd
Visited the
incident.
protest. What's the deal?
Yeah, okay, that's it. That's 1 minute.
Well, anyway,
The
you
riots.
get the flavor, the firsthand reports there. It's always disturbing to see people in a frenzy like this. You see why mobs can be so manipulated, right? Because they're so
Yeah,
emotional.
mobs,
They're
exactly.
so emotional.
Yeah.
I don't want to be part of the mob.
Yeah.
I just want to stay home and watch TV.
Yeah, did you see any of these riots on? Well, what was your source for looking at the LA riots? What did you look at? What news sources?
My best look was Lawrence O'Donnell's take. Did you guys see Lawrence O'Donnell last night?
No.
No.
He's on MSNBC every night at 7 o'clock Pacific.
And what did he say?
He's
Essentially,
just fantastic. He explained how Trump had created this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sending in the gulags in order to make it more a crazy frenzy.
Oh, yeah. If you want to take it from that, it's more in the jurisdiction battles between federal authority versus state authority. And of course,
Yeah,
it
can
is
you believe
shocking.
Trump sent in those National Guard without getting Gavin Newsom's permission? Can you believe that? That's completely unconstitutional. It's beyond unconstitutional.
yeah. But wouldn't you kind of like the drama of watching Gavin Newsom getting arrested by the feds
That guy is not going to arrest Gavin Newsom.
and hauled off to jail? In the meantime,
They're not going to do that. They're just talking. They're talking through their butt. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, well, still visually, I mean, with all these tools we have for creating fake realities,
Yeah.
we can
These
easily
are-
imagine it.
You got to just realize
it would be
that
good. It would be great entertainment value.
Yes,
but
exactly.
called showboating.
But that's what Trump is too. He's a TV guy.
That's
He likes
true.
reality television. And what would make good reality TV? Well, having
But
the
I hate
mayor
seeing-
arrested.
I hate seeing
the
Trump
governor.
say that Gavin's wrecked California.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with California. I live in California, and it's a beautiful place. Everything's fine.
yeah, I know.
Gavin's doing a great job.
Well, I
But
wouldn't go that
Trump
far, but-
doesn't have anything to do with California. He's not here, and he's accusing Gavin of wrecking the place.
Yeah, I know. Well, everyone's making their point. It's like prosecution and the defense, the American way. What can you say?
Yeah, the old checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
We like it when people clash. I mean, on a certain sense, we
We can
think
see
that
who's telling the
that's
truth,
a sign
right?
that everything's
Yeah.
okay.
Meanwhile, I'm wondering about Elon's timing on all this, because here we are, we're seeing Waymo cars being destroyed, the autonomous vehicles in LA and San Francisco, and now, starting possibly as early as this weekend, Tesla is rolling out their autonomous taxi service in Austin, Texas. This weekend.
Oh, great.
No, hopefully there's not huge demonstrations going on in Austin. I don't know, but
Well, we'll see. But if the stock market has anything to say about it, today Tesla is way up and Netflix is way down.
yeah. Oh, I want to pass on a tip to you too about the autonomous cars. And not that you'd ever want to do this, but apparently what the protesters discovered is that if you take an orange cone, like you see on the roads,
A traffic cone?
yeah, and you put it onto the hood of the car, it causes it to pause.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. The
Waymo?
pause. The Waymos. Yeah, they pause.
Okay, well, I
The
guess
autonomous
if
vehicle
you're
stops moving.
worried, that seems like
Pause.
something.
They just stay there. That's when you can beat them up, right? You can smash in their windows, set the batteries on fire, throw gasoline on the
Dr.
electric
Future, you
battery.
are a troublemaker.
That's what they're doing. I'm just saying.
Oh, you're not making
Yeah,
the news.
no.
You're just reporting it.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, and apparently they make really great fires with the batteries going. It's just really impressive.
Oh, yeah. The Waymos are
Yeah,
they
the way
electric?
the electric
They're
cars, they make
cars?
a great cinematic cover. I'm looking at the whole thing from a reality TV point of view, like Trump does,
Sure.
right? And if you think of it as you have these dramatic scenes of cars burning fiercely, and that's always been a big problem in Hollywood. I've been on many movie sets where they push a car off a cliff, right, and it's supposed to burst on fire at the bottom and explode. 9 times out of 10, it didn't explode.
What
When I
happened?
saw that, they would just fall off the cliff and nothing would happen, and they have to pick up the car and do it again. It was already crumpled. And so you had to go to the junkyard and get another car. And
Make sure it lands
the
on a
same
bomb.
model, right? Yeah. And so what they finally did, this was before digital effects, they would put a propane burner in the wreck at the bottom and turn up the propane flames so that you had this consistent flickering blue and yellow flames coming from the vehicle. Now, any expert in cinema knows that it's fake when they see a consistent burn type image.
Is this the iOS 26 segment?
Obviously not.
No, 130. 130.
Let's
I
see.
read after
Are we
the
going to
news,
have
yeah.
to ask you to mute?
I see.
Sorry.
He's obviously not his
Wait for your
topic of
cue.
topic
Just
of
wait
interest.
for your cue,
Can you
okay,
say?
Taylor?
Sorry.
Unless you have something funny. Like, we
Yeah.
always appreciate something funny.
Yeah.
The sound of my voice is funny.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
To a degree,
It's
to a point.
You've got a kind of a cartoon voice,
I
Sort
do.
of, yeah.
Okay.
You can be very
But,
powerful.
boy, you did manage to derail
Yeah.
the conversation. Good job. It was time to
No,
move
it's
on
all right.
anyway.
That's all right. I was ready to move on anyway. I mean, I there's only so much you can say about destroying autonomous vehicles, and making them look pretty for cinema. And anyway, and getting the right fire, getting the right kind of fire for a burning vehicle in Hollywood required propane.
Well, and really on this
Yeah.
show, considering we are of the type of person that is looking forward to robots beginning to be a normal part of our reality, kind of like the people in the era of horses, the people who were looking forward to cars. We're now the people in the era of cars looking forward to robots. And there's a whole bunch of people who just want to burn down the robots.
I know
right?
that is the issue. That might actually cause an evolutionary slowdown on the introduction of humanoids in mass in our culture.
Well, not really, because it's a tiny fraction of the people. And it ignites a bigger conversation about what is and is not lawful behavior, because destroying people's property is not free speech. Destroying people's property is vandalism.
No, it's like stealing.
Yeah, and it poisons the water for people who are not that violent. The current environment where media conflates things that are very different from each other tends to empower people who are on the edge to be more daring. And it's better that we keep it clear that we want to hear everything from everybody, but we're still in the sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. This next generation has decided that words are going to break your bones, and if words aren't enough, then start a fire or break a window.
Well, yeah. Or you could, if you were a designer, right? If you're somebody who's creating the tech, you got to think about this. So the humanoids got to have a self-defense system. They need an immune system.
What does that look like?
And that's how immune systems evolved, because we needed them. Because the mysterious other was causing problems for your evolution. So this will create it. And a lot of people need to think about this to get it right, because you don't want your robot to suddenly shock you if you were mean to it, right? I mean,
You mean you don't want it to be programmed to be retaliatory?
Oh, no, you got to be careful of that programming. That's what Isaac Asimov was talking about in the laws of robotics back in the 50s. The problem is that he, like many others, thought the best program for the robots was to not cause harm to others.
I think that's true. The golden rule for robots is up there with the golden rule for humans. Don't cause harm.
Yeah, but the problem happens is when you cause harm to the robot, right? So
Yeah, that's true. These poor robots are finding out what it's like to be a second-class citizen.
A lot of humans don't follow the golden rule, you know?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago that it was normal to beat up the dummies. If you think back to what humor was popular in the early era of television, like in the 50s, you think about the Groucho Marx brothers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
or
sure. Mm-hmm.
The Three Stooges.
Ralph Cramden
I mean, these
beating up
guys.
his wife.
Who's that?
Yeah, Al Cramden and
Ralph
Jackie
Cramden,
Gleason.
Yeah, so
his wife.
whacking people was normal in the 50s.
And they were making jokes
Yeah.
about it as if it was just so pervasive that it was funny, and hitting people on the head with a bat was
Why
supposed to get a laugh.
I oughta.
Yeah, and
Three
Three
Stooges.
Stooges.
Black
Yeah,
eyes
right.
and pratfalls. And so
Sound effects got a boon in that era.
we're a very coddled era here compared to people in our recent memory.
Yeah, though we have our media to remind us of our heritage.
Well, but it is really civilized to get away from violence as the way of attaining your desires.
It's a good thing. Great progress.
Yeah, we've made progress, and let's not lose progress just because some yahoos think that they're in charge of a better
Yeah.
way.
All right, well,
Grade
okay.
school kids are learning to be gentle.
You got a point. And gentle is important too. I think maybe the robots should know how to give us a good massage
I'm sure they do, Al.
And then
I'm
people
sure
will
that's
be
one
nice
of
to
the things they're
them.
really good about.
because they just won't think of them as a tin can at that point, but something that can give you a good massage. You'll treat with respect more.
Al,
likely.
the people who are burning
Yeah.
the cars are not the ones who
No,
are
no,
going
no,
to
not
enjoy
burning
the
the car.
massages.
I'm
They're
saying-
different people.
Yes.
They're rude. They're very rude.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Nobody will bother the robots. We might as well not need to worry about their protection.
Yeah, think about the people that needed those vehicles for transportation. They couldn't walk or something.
Yeah.
If you want to get into the psychology of the people that are burning the robots,
No,
like,
I
what do they need?
I'm saying that that's a very fringe element. Most people aren't that way. And the program for most of the robots need to be oriented towards making you, as the head of the household or the member of the household,
They should build
enjoying the
sprinklers
presence.
into the robots, into those cars. There should be sprinklers that they can spray at the attackers.
Oh, yeah, a little water. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Or,
water hoses.
high pressure air.
I do not want to
Exactly.
start
Yeah.
arming the
Yes.
robots. I
Yeah.
think let's do it. Let's think of like the Daisy approach. How they put a flower into the turret of the tank in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
Like we really need to appeal to the best of our humanity, and we do not need to be arming the robots.
Well, the best toy I thought along those lines was Air Blaster. Did you ever have an
Guys,
air?
what is it? Boys
Air
always want to
blasters.
go towards violence. They
No.
always want to solve problems with more violence.
It's
No,
It's
air
so lame.
blasters and water is a good idea.
Yeah, water blasting, air blasting. Yeah, that's
I just to be ironic
Yeah.
here, it was the water blasting of the crowds in the
oh, that was pretty rough.
in the Atlanta civil rights movement
they showed them
that caused them to send in the National Guard for the first time in history in defense of federal law. So it's kind of funny that you're saying like now let's put it into the robots.
Well, small amounts. I mean, I'm saying that. But
That puts the robots on the wrong side of the
It's-
civil
look,
rights march.
Miss Future, it's very Pavlovian. A little water. It's
The engineers have got to be thinking about this, though, son. The
No, but
engineers gotta
see,
be
you
thinking about
guys
water
are-
and air.
You guys want to treat humanity like we should be robotized. And I'm telling you, that is the wrong direction. We do not want humanity to be more like robots. We want robots to be more like the thoughtful, peaceful, loving beings that humanity has created, that are far more numerous
Well,
than the
what are
ones
they
that
gonna do
require
when somebody
weapons.
coming at them with a Molotov cocktail.
yeah.
They got to defend themselves.
Okay,
it's-
I think everybody who proposes one of these
True,
violent
man.
solutions should have to put $100 in a cuss jar. You know,
I don't think it's violent to air and water as a defense.
you're incorrect. It's all a matter of degree.
Well, in approach, it can be
It's
a
an
warning.
attitude.
An air blast can be a warning, or it can be a punishment, depending on how much
It's
it
still
is.
oppositional and domineering. It is not empathetic and cooperative.
Well, what do you got the robot say? Oh, please don't do that. Please be kind to me.
Yeah. Maybe it
Well,
needs.
I'm more like you want to speak softly and carry a big stick.
Well, no, it would do it nice. It would do like the air. How about this? It would do a blast of nitrous into your nose as it whacks you and tells you the proper. So you feel pain and pleasure at the same time.
Yeah.
What about that?
You guys, you're
good.
missing the point entirely. You're
Well,
totally
you're going to
off.
get together with the engineers of these cars to get them to do the right
Yeah,
thing.
you know what I would do is if we needed to invoke some kind of restraint, I would do something that would be like what is it in the airbag? You know, like restrain people with airbags, like in The Prisoner, right?
Oh, the bag. Yeah. Well, that was innovative. I like that. Yeah. Well, if you can learn the lessons through feathers, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just create a better option. Emotions need to be
When they're
heard.
coming at you with Molotov cocktails, I don't get it.
Well, by the time you're at the Molotov cocktail level, you've already missed most of your opportunities.
You're already
You
chosen,
got to identify your opportunities for empathy well before the violent criminal is loose with his violent
you talked to him
options.
like Hal did to the astronaut in 2001.
I'm sorry, Dave. We're not going there.
I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Civilize the robots so that they will not be violent.
Well, they're trying to address this issue in a new series on Apple TV. I think it's called Murderbot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like Murderbot.
It's in the future on a mining colony in the asteroid belt, and he's a security robot.
Right.
He was serving a bunch of asshole miners. Or just yahoos. And the interesting thing there is that he started to get into reprogramming his authorization codes. The ones
Right. Yeah, this robot was overcoming his limiting
he was
programming
told never to hurt a human or to bother a human in a negative way.
and
he,
obey all their orders.
Yeah, and he just felt like there's a higher option than that.
Right.
And so the series is kind of about a robot exploring those realms.
Right.
But we got to go to a break.
We
so
do. We got to go to a break. I'm glad
Thanks for
you
listening. And
remembered.
after the break, we have a little bit of an update on what Apple said yesterday and what's going on this week.
All right.
So
iOS 26, Mac OS 26. Whoa.
all right.
Be right back.
Save money on airfare to anywhere. Low Cost Air is the discount supermarket for all domestic and foreign airlines. A funny thing is going to happen when you call Low Cost Air. You're going to talk to a human being within 60 seconds. Save money on airfare to anywhere. Call Low Cost Air to compare at 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
I'm Kevin Donovan, the owner of Cypress Coast Fence, Monterey Bay Area's premier fence company.
And I'm Katie Donovan, Kevin's sister. I'm one of the project coordinators. I'll help you choose the best fence for your needs, and I'll be with you for every step of the project.
We work with local suppliers and employ quality craftsmen to build the right fence to secure, protect, or privatize your property. We've been in business for 15 years and have been voted best fence company for 7 years running.
Give us a call for your no-obligation consultation at 831-783-1500 or at cypresscoastfence.com.
We don't just build fences, we make good neighbors.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
And we're back, and so is our water pump.
Hi, folks.
I guess we should do an interview with it and find out what it needs.
Somebody is using me.
That's right. Anyway, that's what happens when you're off the grid. Your gravity-fed water needs to be pumped up, or it doesn't work. So
back to the stories at hand. This is a big week for Apple. The WWDC is happening as we speak. And if you were a developer, if you were interested in developing apps for the Mac or the iPhone or the iPad, now's your chance to learn all about it, because all the lectures and all the talks by the experts in programming are doing their thing this week, and you can access it all online.
yeah, and we do have Taylor on the show today to comment.
WWDC stands for Worldwide Developer Conference, and they hold it every year in June.
Yeah, okay, yes. That's...
For developers, for people that write software to make your life better and happier and friendlier.
Yeah.
And now we have a new operating system for all of the different Apple devices, and they've decided to rename them by like cars. So they release them in a year with the following year's number.
Yeah, so we're jumping from Mac OS 16 to Mac OS 26.
And that's because they want to use the year that we're in. Yeah, and like
It was 15.
automobiles, like I bought
It's going to be 16, but it's 15.
Yeah, I got a 2018, man.
Well, I can tell you, my auto update has put me on OS 16, and my Dreamweaver app has stopped working. So,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, son.
Got to
I
go
did
back.
not know that.
Yeah.
Are you running 26, Taylor?
I'm running the developer version of 26 on the Mac. Tahoe. It's called Tahoe.
How's it working so far?
It seems to be working just fine. It looks beautiful and works just fine. I don't really understand all the differences that Apple's bragging about. I don't look like I've got glass or anything like that.
So you don't see anything that unusual?
No, I don't really see that much difference.
Okay.
And I have it on my phone and my iPad, and I can't really tell much difference either. But I think the iPad has got the biggest update.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
You can have 12 tiles of different, you can have 12 apps open, 12 different windows on the iPad now.
So 12 windows at once, and you can resize them individually to...
Yes, you can resize them to all different sizes that you want.
Nice. Huh. Have you played with that yet?
I'm not an iPad player. I'm an iPad looker.
But if you like iPads and you want multiple windows, it's easier than ever.
Yeah, I would get an 11-inch iPad and have it in my lap and fool around with it that way. I have a 14-inch floating in front of me, so I just look. I use it as a TV screen and stuff like that.
I noticed that the buttons are different. Instead of circular, they're kind of oval shaped, and they have this liquid glass look where it's kind of translucent. Some of the
on your
text.
iPad?
Yeah, on my iPad. Yeah.
I see.
And you're
It
running
looks
26? Are you running the 26 on that?
Yeah, I'm running both on my two iPads and also on my M4 Pro. I'm running the Tahoe 26. Yeah, iOS.
M4 Pro Mac Mini.
Yeah, the Mac Mini. Yeah.
Nice. What's your thinking about the liquid glass design? Is it as big a deal as people are making it out to be, or what?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. Some people really like it, and some people say it's kind of retro, like Windows tried to do that. And
Luke Miani loves it.
Okay. Well, yeah, certain people love
Brian
it.
Tong loves it.
It's a different look.
Look and feel. New design, new name.
It's good to know that some apps might not work, like the Dreamweaver Sun. It's not working for you.
Yeah. It's looking for Mac OS 15.5, and it's finding 16 and crashing. And it's been like this for about a week, and nothing I can do about
bummer.
it. Yeah.
Take the publisher of Dreamweaver and ask them what they're doing about it.
It's Adobe. Yeah, they need to update.
Believe me, I've communicated. I'm just in limbo. I might have to figure out how to Actually, I'm thinking of upgrading to Tahoe just so maybe it's fixed. Maybe it's more compatible with that.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm just getting the liquid glass thing. It's where all the icons are transparent on the screen. They lose all their color. They're just floating.
Well, you can switch that. You can make them all transparent, or you can switch them to dark mode or light mode.
Yeah, the normal ones. Yeah, but this translucency is the defining characteristic of liquid glass from what I can see.
It's a setting that you can change. They don't have to be glass like that.
Okay, the controls themselves merge and adapt and morph. How about the camera? There's supposed to be some improvement in the camera app, a simplified interface.
Oh, yeah. They have a video photo button, and when you push each one, reveals the features, the settings that you can adjust for each one.
Is this on the phone?
On the phone. And at the top, you have a choice of 4K or 1080p.
So you can choose it right away, right in the
or 30 or 60 frames per second, or 120 on the 4K. You can shoot 120 to achieve slow motion in 4K.
And you have those choices
when you play
in
it
the
back
front
at
menu.
60.
Wow. Well, that's pretty interesting.
It's all a matter of fooling around with stuff.
Right. A more intuitive design, I think they're going for.
Everybody's recommended to watch the presentation from Apple and also various YouTube videos explaining it. Yeah. We can't explain it in a few words.
One of the features that struck me was in the messages update.
Yeah? What'd you notice?
Yeah, it looks quite different.
Yeah, it looks different. And also you had this new feature called polling. Where you have a group on messages and that you can instantly set up a poll where you ask everybody a question and see the results.
Group messenger, right.
And see the results come in real time.
Ooh.
And also FaceTime looks quite different. When you launch FaceTime, the list of people that you call it looks way different.
Uh-huh. Now, do you know if they added the ability to record calls on FaceTime, group calls?
It's in the control center. I don't know about recording the video.
Like that's what Zoom does. So you'd think that the Apple system would give you that option as well.
There's a recording option in the settings of the iPad that records the video as well as the audio.
Okay. Well, that's something we'll have to experiment with to see.
That's been there before now, though. That's not new.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if something was built in for recording.
There is. Already has been.
Okay. The other
iPad OS.
The other thing on the phone was that this ability to be like your secretary, where it would answer calls and take messages.
You can put somebody on hold. If somebody calls you, you can make it a hold. You can deliver a message to them when it answers, and then when they put you on hold, you can put them on hold, and then it'll alert you when they come back off the hold.
Uh-huh. How is that better than an answering machine?
I don't know. I'm probably not explaining it very well.
Yeah.
Do you have an answering machine attached to your iPad?
No, actually, it's kind of funny. I don't mind calls going to the answering service, right? Just to leave a message. But to...
they added the phone to the iPad, by the way. There's a phone app in the iPad now that takes calls just like your phone.
Okay, good. Okay.
They have that in the Mac OS too, where
they added a phone app to the Mac, right?
So you can make phone calls from your Mac, and it actually uses your phone.
Exactly.
But I think you have to have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on at the same time, though.
Have you guys heard the latest Bluetooth is 6.0? Have you heard about that?
No, what's great about 6.0?
I don't know. I watched the video explaining it, and I couldn't understand any of it.
Okay, well, maybe it's more
stable. But I'm not
stable.
a techie. I'm not technically inclined.
Right. Okay, but what you can pass on is 6.0 is out.
Yes.
You want to know
Bluetooth
more?
Bluetooth 6.0 is the next version.
Yeah, just
beyond 5.4.
Oh.
Okay, so if you want to know more, just search for 6.0.
It just jumps to 6. Yeah.
Cool.
Is our iPhone 16s, do they have 6.0 Bluetooth or not?
No, they don't. They're 5.4.
Okay. So you can't take advantage till you buy the next phone. Is that right?
Devices may ship with 6.0 that'll take advantage, even though the host is only 5.4.
Regarding this answering service, I think what would make sense to me is what we're using here for our podcast. We're using an app people can call in, a call-in number. And then what that app does is that it lets them leave a message for us, which we see on our screen. And then we can decide when to bring them into the conversation or not, or to hang up on them. You see, so if everybody had that ability, not just podcast hosts, that would make sense to me. If people would be allowed to leave you a text message before.
Well, you can always request that feature. The features of iOS 26 and iPad OS 26.
Well, I'm thinking maybe it has it
Are
already.
still
Maybe
not going to be solid until September.
right.
You know?
Okay. How can we have better system than we're doing? Because right now we use answering machines, and that's based on 20th century actually having to have an answering machine. And we're in a digital age now where we can do a lot more than just have answering machines for messages. And that includes live texting when somebody doesn't answer.
It would be great if they had an app that created a green room for all the call-in callers.
A room where everyone can hang out in?
Yeah, before they go live.
Yeah, they can talk to each other. And they said, okay, Bobby, you're up. I guess if you give them a countdown for a few seconds, that'd be good. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So a lot of possibilities there. I think the AI revolution will be part of that. And when Apple finally gets into it, that will be awesome. Meanwhile, Apple seems to be taking a slower time to introduce high-level AI ideas into their operating systems. Why do you think that is? Well, how come Apple is lagging in that department?
I think they're going to add Gemini to Siri.
They're doing ChatGPT now.
I know, but I think they're going to add Gemini.
You know, what they announced was they're allowing their Xcode to actually allow the onboard processors, the neural processors, to actually access apps. And so programmers that are writing apps for the iPhone can now have AI look at their app and use the onboard AI to query the app.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That's a great idea.
So that was the one that I watched on Xcode. You can see one of the things on Xcode. They explain that. So it's kind of interesting, but it turns out that the 16 neural processors aren't that very AI heavy. And so, yes, it can do some AI things, but right now it's rather slow in what it can do. I really think the option is you're going to buy one of these DGX Spark stations, for like $3,000 or $4,000, and your phone, if you're in your house, is going to query the Spark station, and that it's AI. It's a Blackwell 200 processor. It's a supercomputer in that little box. It's going to do the AI. It's far superior to the 16 neural processors that are in the iPhone.
Does it rely on a cloud set of...
No, it doesn't. What it means is what Apple's trying to do is doing your personal cloud, which is your local cloud. It's AI on the edge, where it's actually acting on the phone as much as it can. But then when it doesn't have the answer, then you have to grant it permission to go to ChatGPT right now. But I guess they're going to switch to Gemini here, it looks like. Yeah, I think where things are going is, you're going to have home automation. You're going to have a supercomputer in your house, and it's going to query your Synology server, and it's going to know everything about you, and it's going to try to do all the AI stuff locally.
Well,
and what it can't...
Would you say that would be like your home brain?
Yes, exactly. You're going to be able to download mentors, these agents. They call them agents right now. They could be famous people like Buckminster Fuller or Einstein.
They could be your teachers, right, for physics or understanding tensegrity. Those guys would, firsthand, you'd be able to ask them questions and you'd have their attention.
They call them models, right?
Yeah.
You're talking
Models.
about AI models.
Yeah.
And so they're specialized query bots that have the answers to one set of particular kinds of knowledge.
Yeah, and your home brain would be tuned specifically to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the knowledge navigator. Apple has been very straight in their pursuit of giving us something that actually enhances our ability to get knowledge from the world of knowledge and assemble it locally according to our personal requirements. So,
does anybody have a CarPlay Ultra in their car?
a what?
There's CarPlay Ultra now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a new version of CarPlay, the
Yeah.
third generation.
Yeah, I don't understand it because I don't have that kind of fancy car, but...
Well, yeah, it basically just gives you an interface for your screen. So
It's a super duper version of CarPlay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you have a fancy, expensive car, like a Bentley or a...
Yeah, it's like a subscription service.
CarPlay Ultra subscription service?
No, I'm just saying it's like that.
I don't know.
It's a plus. They distinguished it from the basic version, so I assumed it was a premium.
Well,
Probably
it's more
paid for it.
seamless, more integrated in your car experience.
Yeah, the new Games app is a subscription service. You got to pay $7 a month.
Yeah. Well, this one,
Play games.
$7 a month
I'm not a
for
gamer.
games?
I'm anti-gaming.
Okay, well then I won't ask you about that anymore. But about the CarPlay Ultra, I believe it extends CarPlay functionality into your instrument cluster. So you can look at control car functions directly from the Apple interface.
Okay, I do not know about that.
More customizable. Personalize your gauge designs and your widgets. Be like the way you arrange widgets on your screen, that's your car controls. Kind of makes sense.
They've also added visual intelligence, so you can select an item in a photograph that you take, and it'll tell you where to buy it and how much it costs.
Okay, well, so that's a little bit of Apple intelligence coming into the picture. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, we got less than
visual intelligence.
We got less than a minute left on this segment. Any final thoughts on this, Taylor?
I think everybody's going to be real happy. There's a new watch, OS 26 also. I'm happy with the Series 10. It charges from 20 to 80% in 23 minutes.
That's the watch? Okay, and that's...
Yeah, it's a fast charger. I love it.
All right, good.
And
that's
everybody get their watch Series 11 in September, along with their iPhone 17 Pro Max.
Ah, you hear that, Mrs.
Or
Future?
17 Air, the super duper light.
Oh, it's my birthday around.
I have a feeling there's a watch in your future.
Oh.
All right, we'll be right back.
Sorry.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Good to have you here. And this hour, we're going to get some more stories and some more news. And you guys can call in. We have a call-in number, 831-265-5050. That's our call-in studio. And feel free to join our conversation. Okay, so Bobby, we talked a lot about Bitcoin the last couple of weeks because it's been kind of a hot area. A lot's been going on in the Bitcoin arena. Can you give us a little brief update as to what's happening this week? And
it hit an all-time record this week, right?
Yeah, I think it did get above 111,000 for Bitcoin. So what it's positioned, if you follow the people that follow Bitcoin, it looks like it's on a very high trajectory by the end of this week. It could happen today. It could happen. In fact, I should just look up what the price is here. There's a lot of announcements of states across the United States that are using Bitcoin as a reserve currency. There's also nations around the world are getting into having a reserve currency for Bitcoin.
Okay, it says that the price right now is $109,806.20 for one Bitcoin.
I think last week it was like 106 or something.
Yeah, it was around 105, 106.
So from what you can see, adoption is continuing to grow. Actually, nation states are having Bitcoin reserves now as a matter of course. It's rapidly becoming normal. So it's been sort of incorporated into our planetary financial system then.
Well, it looks like the nations around the world are looking at this, and the nation that made the biggest mistake was probably China, because they kind of outlawed Bitcoin.
Really? It seems like they would be great Bitcoin miners over there.
They did, but then they were discouraged. And so a lot of the mining moved here to the United States.
Oh, okay. It went
Hey, that reminds me of, I know you want to talk about Bitcoin, but you do have an article about how they shut down the internet today because they're busy doing national exams in China.
I know. That's a whole other story. That's a very interesting story.
Well, I mean, Bitcoin mining and the internet, of course, are intrinsically related.
Okay.
Right.
Well, it's a brief story, so why don't we integrate it into the conversation then?
Okay.
Yeah, tell me about that. So I didn't know that. This is China.
Yeah.
Or is it? How does it affect the world, though?
Well, okay, it has to do with the AI tools and how they're affecting education as a whole. Okay. And in China, like in many countries, they have their students this time of year take a 4-day exam period where they do tests after they graduate from high school, just like your SATs. And you go for limited spots in the universities in the country. And apparently it's pretty tight to get in. 13 million students taking this 4-day test what's happened is that the kids have gotten so used to using AI for school projects that the government decided that this wasn't going to be, that's not fair that the kids are using AI. So they got all the big Chinese tech companies to turn off some of the AI functions to prevent cheating during this competitive university entrance exam. Now they're sitting there taking their exams without access to AI.
That sounds like a good idea.
Well, from a traditional point of view, yeah. But if you're of a generation where AI is a part of your, like one of your teachers that you normally learn from, that's always there for you and with you, and to take them away for an exam, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you want to look at the optimization of between your AI teachers and your knowledge? Especially if they are always going to be part of you, always going to be there for you. It's not like in real life, it makes sense that you would be separated from your teacher because you're only going to see the teacher for that course or that year. But with the AIs, these will be your buddies for life. In my mind, they should be considered as part of your intelligence and not separate from
Now, this is a very interesting answer from Google, from Gemini, about when I asked the question about what percentage of high school students in China can attend university.
Yeah.
So according to the AI overview of Search Labs, in 2023, 60.2% of China's age cohort were enrolled in tertiary education, meaning that about 60% of high school graduates could attend university. This represents a significant increase from 3.4% in 1990.
3.4 to 60. Well, I
that
guess
means 60% of the graduates can go to university. It doesn't.
that's great. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, that explains why they're doing so well in the space race, et cetera, and AI and
But
all
I'm-
that stuff that they're excelling at.
No, I'm saying if these kids were used to using their AIs and suddenly they can't use them for these tests, my guess is that they're not going to do as well on the exams as in the past.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because the education, even though the kids are dependent on the AIs, the education may not be. So we don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
It can't be new that they have to pass the test without the AIs, right?
Yeah, in this article, they're talking about using DeepSeek. And then if
Right.
that didn't work, you can use ChatGPT or something.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that's the kind of thing you do when you are learning about something. When you have time to read for an hour about some subject that you're interested in, then DeepSeek is good for you. But you're not going to use that for a test.
Well, they say they turned off the picture recognition functions during the exams.
Which means that they can't read Chinese script or Chinese. The ability to read Chinese letters depends on the photograph.
Picture recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Funny. Facial recognition.
Well, it's a glyph language.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you're talking about their language.
Yeah, I mean, I recently was trying to translate some Chinese letters, and you have to submit a picture to give the translator, and then the translator figures out what letter it is, and then they tell you what it means.
Yeah, they use optical character recognition. The Chinese characters, you can divide them up. When I was taking Japanese, we use some of the Chinese characters, only like 10,000 of them. And, you know, there's like 60,000.
Just a subset, huh?
Yeah, it's a subset. Yeah. There's 60,000 Chinese characters. And so it's hard to recognize them all. But there's ways to break them into parts, and you can kind of get the meaning of them because there's subgroups in one of the characters. You might see the character for water or below or sun or whatever. And when you combine them all, you can kind of guess what the character means.
Get this. This is funny. The teachers don't want the students to be using AI, but the teachers can use the AI. And what do the teachers want to use the AI for during the exam? They want to watch for
Cheaters.
abnormal behaviors like whispers between students.
Surveillance.
Or repeated glances between students during the exam.
Are they coding? Is that a coded wink that you're doing?
That's interesting. I think eventually, you know, AI is going to be part of you. It could be in your glasses or it's in your phone, and it's got earbuds and it's talking to you all the time.
No, I mean, if you think about this as a birthing process of planetary intelligence, right now, it's like the planet just found out it's pregnant, and we don't know exactly what we need to do to help this baby live. Right now, we might want to kill it, you know?
Yes. Meanwhile, the Chinese authorities are also looking at stricter entry checks at these giant exams. What kind of scans do they do of the students as they go into the exam area? And they're looking for biometric identification, screening for digital devices on them, scan them, make sure they don't have a secret.
I wonder if they're like our SATs.
Yeah, they are kind of. I think a little more thorough because they're 4 days. 4 days of.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Also, they're looking for radio signal blockers. So I would think that they would want to use them to block the kids from communicating with each other. Yeah.
Right. Oh, it's interesting. Like some cities, they're so busy shutting down the internet that they had to postpone events like public performances.
Yeah, heaven help us if the traffic lanes are controlled by the internet.
Oh, right. No, it says that they made it a priority to dedicate traffic lanes to help ensure that students arrive to the test on time.
Oh, wow. Well, look at that.
Really strict.
Synchronized lights. Get to the exam on time.
That's right. If you're not a student, stay off the road.
The cosmic joke about all this is that the idea of these exams is kind of an outdated concept.
Well, we don't know. Is this knowledge
obviously not, because
universal?
we're still doing it. We're still doing SATs and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that this whole idea of the purpose of an exam is going to be transcended. And why is it being transcended? Because we are getting taught by personal tutors that take us to insights all the time.
That's true. Yeah, we're going away from mass conformity to individualized genius enhancement.
And we don't all have to be the same. The whole idea of all having to be the same knowledge base goes back to the early days of the Industrial Revolution, where we needed cogs for the machine.
That's true. And again, back to that conversation, we don't need humans to be better robots. We're done with that phase of industrial evolution. We've got robots for that.
Yeah.
We need humans to be more imaginative humans.
Exactly, yeah. Fully human. What it means to be.
That is the real evolution on the planet that's going
for
on
biologicals,
right now.
yes.
Yeah. So the future does not look like the past. The future in the age of Aquarius is the best of human genius with creative intelligence and spiritual enlightened solutions, where we're figuring out how to make our world more fun for us. And that means more alive, more automated, more sensitive, more
automated.
aware.
More automated. What do you mean more automated?
Yeah, well, like having a sprinkler system so that you don't have to be missing your watering
That's
of
my,
your garden
that's
kind
my,
of stuff.
That's my robot.
Yeah.
My sprinkler robot.
Yeah. We give the automated stuff to the robots, but we make sure that what they're doing enhances life.
Okay, I agree with that mostly. But I think also you got to keep in mind that most people like a routine.
Robots especially.
Well, robots do. Robots thrive on them.
The
I think
humans that like the routine have celebrated their own inner robot, and they need a little help coming back to their natural human independent chaos.
Well, what do you want? You want everyone experiencing extreme novelty every moment?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I mean, there's, we want it to hang together in a harmonious. It's more like everybody should be at a fun concert.
Okay,
there's the match of chaos, and somebody's put a program together, and the music is great.
Okay. Yeah, you want to be in your groove, so to speak. Yeah,
that's right.
Feel it. You know when you're in your groove because you can feel it.
You should have freedom to find your groove.
Right. Remember that movie Stella Getting Her Groove On?
What? No, I don't.
There's a movie called Stella Gets Her Groove On.
Whoa, you have to put that on the movie list.
Well, I don't know if it was a particularly good film, but I thought
it's
you
a
reminded me
memorable
of that. Yeah. The groove is important. It's like how musicians get into a groove. Well, reality itself is like that. It doesn't just have to be musicians in a song, in a groove. It could be the way you live your life.
Right. All right. So that was our little detour into the Chinese exams.
And we were talking about Bitcoin with Bobby.
And Bitcoin with Bobby, and robotized humans and humanized non-robots. What else?
Well, what's the recommendation, Bobby? Should we buy or sell?
I think it would be good practice to buy a little Bitcoin, or there's these hot wallets that are very safe that for small amounts that you can get used to using it. And if you go to these steak and fries places, they now accept these hot wallets that have Bitcoin, and they accept Bitcoin now. And so there's only a few places now that accept Bitcoin, but it's going to change in this next year. I think you're going to see a lot of restaurants and things accepting Bitcoin, especially because Square, which has, I forget how many millions of restaurants and retail stores carry the Square card reader, they're going to accept Bitcoin on that. And that's coming in a few months here. So they announced that. You're going to have two different kinds of wallets. You're going to have what's called a hot wallet that has a small amount of Bitcoin. And then you're going to have a cold wallet, a hardware wallet that holds your thousands of dollars. Well, maybe you have a couple
account.
Bitcoin in there, you know.
Right.
But these hot wallets, they're going to reside on your phone, and you're just going to scan QR codes, and you can instantly trade your Bitcoin and buy something. It's going to be faster than doing a Visa card check. You know, it's just like scan and instantly. And it's going to use the Lightning Network, which is a side chain, and it's not on the main chain of Bitcoin. A transaction where you transact large amounts, it can take like 10 minutes to finalize a transaction. But you have things called Lightning, which is a side chain of Bitcoin, and it can transact instantaneously. And you can instantaneously send hundreds of dollars worth of Bitcoin or whatever anywhere on the planet to anybody else on the planet in half a second with Lightning Network. So that's going to be where
It's coming together pretty fast, yeah.
transactions are going to happen.
Yeah, and that's when it really will take off, when transactions become lightning fast, yeah, like dollars.
Yeah, so it's going to replace the dollar. And what it's going to do is, let's say you're in the Congo or Australia or someplace, any other place, and you don't have very much money and you're unbankable. You could be in India and you don't have enough money to even have a bank account or even write a check, right? So all these people they all have phones. So there's going to be apps that are on the Lightning Network, and all of a sudden they could buy a stable coin and they could buy $1 with their rupees. In India, they could buy a stablecoin dollar, a USDC dollar, then that will be stable. Like, let's say you're in Argentina and let's say there's inflation going on. All you have to do is take your pesos in Argentina and you just buy a stablecoin, which is pegged to the dollar, and then you don't have to worry about your bank account going to zero.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I was looking up stable coins because I think that it's kind of weird to try and get your mind around how it's working and why a Bitcoin is good. But even though there's a scarcity of them, somehow they're going to be the future of money. But the way they're going to be the future of money is with the stable coins. And what is it that the stable coins are doing? And they're just pegged to the Bitcoin. They're not the Bitcoin itself. And
yeah, the stable coins usually are pegged to the dollar. They have euro stable coins that are pegged to the euro.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be, in Japan, probably they might have a stable coin pegged to the Japanese yuan. It's going to be different for each country, but those stable coins are stable. They are pegged to whatever denomination that they're pegged to.
Yeah, they're always a dollar. Like
Yeah,
Tether
they're always
is
a
always a
dollar.
dollar.
Tether is one. Tether.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tether has been the most, it's been here for many, many years.
And USD coin, I think, is the USD coin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, USD1 is the Trump stable dollar, stable coin. USDC is the one by Circle, which Coinbase is using.
Well, and is supposedly very big in Japan. That particular currency is the one that they associate with the Japanese currency.
Yeah, USDC, which is owned by Circle. They just went public. It's incredible. They're so successful. IPO that just happened like last week.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, right? That allows them to create the new way to do things.
It's kind of an on-ramp into the digital realm. You have to think of fiat money and what we've been using for over 100 years. It's not digital. And
no, it's
so
money
when you
by decree.
Yeah. And then you have Bitcoin, which is totally a new asset value that hasn't existed. It's the first new asset class that's been created in the last 600 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a completely different way of thinking of retaining wealth. Mm-hmm. And so
it's supposed to be a new internet financial system.
Well, it's a system that is designed to reward people for circulating it instead of
pegged.
hoarding it. And the scarcity of it is something that makes it useful as an exchange of value, because the value is created by the fact that people want it and there's not as much as people want.
It says the stock opened at $69 last Thursday after being priced at $31, and shares soared 168% during the session.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Jim Cramer said Circle Internet stock is too hot to buy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, that just happened. You can now buy, if you wanted to, Circle Internet Financial.
Yeah, so there's ways to get some exposure into the crypto realm by buying stocks.
Buying stock,
that
yeah. A lot
all
of
they
people
do
were
is
comfortable
buy,
with that, right?
buy
right.
crypto.
Exactly, yeah. Buy crypto.
Yeah.
We got to go to another segment here in a minute. Anything else to report this week on the crypto front, Bobby? That
In the next minute before we go to our break?
Yeah.
Well, I think if you follow BlackRock or Cathie Woods or Raoul Paul,
Yeah.
they're all saying, hey, this week it's going to go into the banana zone. So, which means that it's just a straight up trajectory from here. So 111,000 is going to sound cheap.
Yeah, so
a year from now.
So
And you think you can just
buy it.
use your Coinbase wallet and buy some and take the ride, or what?
I'm not saying buy one Bitcoin. You can buy 1/1000th of a
Yeah,
Bitcoin
right,
just to get
exactly.
a little exposure.
It's just going to go
again,
up for a while, and so the sooner the better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should try to understand that it's a different way of buying and selling things, and wealth will be calculated in Bitcoin, not in dollars in the future.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, all right. On that note, let's take a little break and talk about the local Santa
All right,
Cruz
so
voice community for a
Final
few
thoughts.
minutes.
So how much is a Bitcoin now worth in U.S. dollars this week?
It's about 111,000 right this minute.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
111,000. Wow.
Yeah. So don't try to buy a whole Bitcoin. Just buy
Piece.
just a
Just buy a
fraction
piece.
of one.
Piece of the rock, man. Piece of the rock. All right, folks. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Be right back.
All right.
Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox Roofing. I thought I'd share a few statistics with you. Do you know how long a frog can hold its breath? 4 minutes. Do you know how many nails the average roof requires? 7,000. What's the percentage of roofing companies that will be out of business after they've installed a roof? 80%. Here at Knox Roofing, we're still going strong, exceeding 15,000 homes now. Give us a call here at Knox Roofing at 461-0634. Thanks, folks.
Attention content producers. You can have access to a complete digital media production facility at Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on SoCal Avenue. Easily rent video and audio equipment, a studio with green screen, editing suite, and audio booth, all at can't say no rates. Schedule a tour to see for yourself at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
You can help build one of America's first full-service local news and talk streaming radio stations, SantaCruzVoice.com. You can help the Voice team build a streaming radio infrastructure of hardware, software, and connectivity by donating your time and or money. Your donations will result in a radio station that everyone will enjoy and that you can truly be proud of. Please go to SantaCruzVoice.com and click support. SantaCruzVoice.com, and thank you.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. Hello, I'm Jenna. Treehouse Dispensary, we use information about cannabis to build community. Listen to Carly.
For those who would like a cannabis flower that stimulates your creativity and makes you feel happy, Treehouse suggests the sativa varietal Banjo from the local growers at Coastal Sun.
For answers to your cannabis questions, ask your friends at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 SoCal Drive in SoCal, or ourtreehouse.io.
Welcome back to the show. Okay, we have a few stories to cover in the last half hour here.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready.
One that was close to Earth, before we go out too far in the Earth, that has to do with
Netflix.
No. Well, there's that.
That's pretty close to Earth, when you
There's
say.
that. I just wanted to mention there was this article about cetaceans. Cetaceans. It was about how they seem to be communicating with our species by blowing bubble rings.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah,
That's
bubble
fun.
rings. And that somehow these bubble rings are a non-human intelligence that has more intelligence
It's
behind
a
them.
language, the
Yeah,
bubble language.
Bubble rings. The bubble, not just bubbles, it's bubble rings like you would see with
like
smoke rings.
right?
Uh-huh.
Except made of air and bubbles. Yeah, we've seen those. Our friend Matisha, who loves to swim with dolphins and whales, is an expert at blowing bubble rings.
Oh, that's the thing, is that
He's
I remember.
part whale himself, I think.
I remember that Matisha showed us how to blow bubble rings with a human mouth.
That's right.
You know?
Right.
And
You have to do it a particular way.
yeah, to be able to get an actual
A hole in the
bubble
middle
ring.
of your
Hole,
bubble.
like
So instead of a sphere, it's a toroid.
A bubble. Our scientists today are finding that humpbacks do bursts of bubble rings, and they use them for lots of different things, including mating rituals.
Well, a girl's always impressed if you can blow a
Bubble
smoke
rings,
ring, right?
Yeah. And also males like to blow bubbles and then swim through them.
Hey, like, what do you think about this, honey?
Yeah, you blow them and they're slowly going up and you swim up through them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It sort of
so-
reminds me of that little hand signal, like the I-O, with your finger, and it's like A-OK,
Yeah.
I-O.
Yeah, information. Information, yeah.
Hey, Bobby, what happened to your picture?
Circle and one. They've documented this behavior, the whale SETI team.
Uh-huh.
Then they said also the humpbacks have generated bubble rings or interacting with humans during friendly encounters.
Uh-huh.
Now, so whoever wrote this article probably met
swum with
Matisha,
them.
right?
Yeah.
Guy
That
named
sounds like
Mika,
something.
Mika Hanks. Mika Hanks.
Okay.
From The Brief.
Uh-huh.
Brief.org.
The debrief.
So, yeah, this is something that we've been familiar with for years, but I never thought of these bubble rings as being the interspecies language.
Sure. Well, it's probably like their emojis. It's the equivalent.
What I remember was that Matisha used them in combination with a giant banana leaf to have fun with the cetaceans.
Sure. Right.
And the banana leaf.
Basically their version of fetch with humans.
Right.
It's like, here, we're going to leave this leaf here for you humans, and you pick it up and then swim back up to the top and then try and get it back down to us, and then we'll take it, move it again.
Yeah, it's like moving this leaf around because it's waterlogged, so it sinks the different heights, and they'll see how far down we'll go.
That's right. And then test our limits. How much of a whale are you?
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if Matisha did, because Matisha used to do that kind of dance himself. I'm wondering if he learned it from the cetaceans or whether or not he taught it to them.
I wouldn't put it past. I told you, I think Matisha is a whale. He's part whale.
Uh-huh,
Maybe
so-
not this body, not this
All
time
right, so
around,
you're-
but he thinks like one,
Okay, so if you're of the school that we've had many incarnations on this planet, including other species, then he's a whale. He was a whale in one of his
in one of his incarnations.
that seems to be very relevant
And
to
he
his human
certainly knows
incarnation.
how to talk to him this time.
Yeah.
They
okay,
have
kinda
fun with
makes
him,
sense.
boy.
Yeah, they sure do.
will give him a blast just to let him know they see him.
So they have lots of pictures in this article. By the way, we have links to all of our stories at drfutureshow.com/links. And this one is all about non-human intelligence with whales and bubbles. They have pictures of what these various bubble rings look like.
Cool.
It's pretty cool. So
Yeah, definitely. That's a feel-good story.
yeah.
Talking to the whales. Thank you, SETI researchers.
And it seems to be, if you learn how to blow bubble rings, you too could be in cetacean interspecies
Yeah, if you're not
communicator.
afraid to be swimming with the whales, then
Right.
you definitely can learn to talk their language just
Blah,
with
blah,
their bubble emojis.
Exactly.
How Mars lost its atmosphere.
That's funny because I had just gone to there myself.
Hey, oh, we're on the same page.
No, that was good.
Very
sometimes,
good.
Sometimes it's skewing left. but
Harmony.
This time, ding. Right. Okay. Yes. Speaking of bubbles, the atmosphere itself can be popped like a bubble. Give it enough force from the outside or from the inside. NASA's been looking at how Mars possibly lost its atmosphere. Billions of years ago, it was like Earth with a liquid water on its surface, and somehow Mars's water has been lost to space along with the atmosphere. So they've been collecting data on that whole thing, And they've come up with a process they've observed about how the atmosphere was stripped away from Mars. They called it sputtering. Sputtering.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how come Mars sputtered and we didn't?
Well, actually, they don't know anything like that. Why that? But I do know that
we just know
sputtering-
what, not why.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to know why.
Uh-huh.
Belongs to how. You'd like to know how. How did the atmosphere sputter away? It has to do with the fact that Mars lost its global magnetic field.
Oh.
Right.
That's the
Yeah,
invisible
something
shield
cracked.
that protects the planet's atmosphere from being stripped away. And what does it get stripped away by? Why? Powerful solar winds. Powerful solar winds.
So it lost its magnetic field maybe because something happened to its orbit?
It's probably it didn't have an iron core like we do.
But if it lost it, did something change or did it just never have one?
I think it had one. I think it had one. At least they think it did. They suspected that sputtering played a role in losing the water in the atmosphere. And that it's kind of like a cannonball in a pool. The way to think about it. The cannonball is the heavy ions crashing into the atmosphere from the sun, and they splash these atoms and molecules out.
So it's kind of like the sun is just sending all this pressure to Mars and blowing it out the other side.
It's not strong enough to be able to stay there.
Yeah, it's this solar wind. It was just imagine the oceans. This solar wind, it can actually strip it and cause it to like steam and blow away. In the Earth, here, we have pole shifts, magnetic pole shifts like 60,000 years.
Yes.
And so it looks like we might be going through one right now even. But during those times, yes, the solar winds have a big effect on our atmosphere. And so we could lose a lot of things and radio communications would go out.
Followed out the narrator is the middle of any of things now occurring part of the Estonian fall to decide. Come in. We just select info paper. 3998.
There's all kinds of other things that could happen too. I mean, the ozone layer could have holes in it, and you could have a lot of problems during the pole shift. But it looks like they had a sustained pole shift where, the magnetic fields just dropped to zero. Yeah.
Well, an atmosphere is a very fragile thing. It's a very fragile thing. It's a very fragile thing.
The sputtering increased when the magnetic field stopped.
That's great.
And started losing its atmosphere much faster.
Makes sense.
At that
the
point,
magnetic field creates a bubble, and inside the bubble, things are a little more calm than outside the bubble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and they're able
the
to.
solar wind would bounce off the magnetic sphere and leave the atmosphere alone.
They used to call it the Van Allen radiation belt.
Around the Earth, yeah.
Around here, yeah.
Well, they probably have an equivalent of Martian radiation belts, I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
They had some instruments to study the atmosphere there to figure this out. They had the solar wind ion analyzer. They had a magnetometer and another gadget called the neutral gas and ion mass spectrometer. And they used these instruments to build a 3D map of the Martian atmosphere, looking at its weather patterns, and particularly in this case, the sputter map, a map of the sputtering process and how that works. I think we also had a satellite. MAVEN was also looking at measurements across the day and the night side of Mars at low altitudes that took years to gather. They were looking at argon gas in the atmosphere. And their map of argon gas bursts were exactly in the places where solar particles smacked into the atmosphere. So the argon gas was an indication. It's a lighter isotope of argon. It was missing from the atmosphere related to the sputtering. Argon gas, sputtering in action, and it's happening faster and faster. So if we want to turn Mars into a planetary
If we want to restore
home for
the
our
atmosphere on
species,
Mars, we're
if we
going to
want
have
to
to
be
do something about that magnetosphere.
a multi-planetary species, we've got to repair this atmosphere before it sputters away.
So the idea of nuking Mars is probably a bad one because it'll probably just make that magnetosphere worse.
Yeah.
Probably need to figure out how to get the charge going again.
Yeah, if you the idea of blowing up a nuclear blast at the poles would melt all the water that's frozen there. But you wouldn't want that water just to go out into space. You'd want it to stop and coalesce around the planet to create the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you keep it from going out into space?
Well, see, it sounds like you got to solve that problem before you liquidate the water.
Before you blow up the ice into...
Yeah, you got to know how to make sure it doesn't get lifted off the planet by the solar wind.
Well, that's why it's so
before you
important.
set it free.
Yeah. Well, it's important we understand planetary ecology and how it works,
Definitely.
Remember last week we talked about there's water underneath Mars?
Yeah.
Like these oceans?
Yeah.
So
to release
I forget
that
how many
somehow,
miles
too.
deep but you'd have to drill and tap into that. That might be another way to irrigate the equator of the Mars.
If elected, I will help you drill for water. Drill, baby, drill. Soon we'll have an atmosphere, and you won't need to leave these pesky masks everywhere.
It's pretty interesting to think about the fact that we're talking about planetary shape-shifting, right?
Terraforming, it's called.
Terraforming on Mars would be Marsiforming, right?
Well, I guess so, yeah.
Marsiform.
Marsiform sounds like candy.
Sounds like a candy bar.
But the thing is that the reason we're doing it is so that we have something to drink. So it's kind of like, wouldn't it be easier to just put in a water fountain than worry about all these planetary forces?
Well, you could carry your own oxygen everywhere, but ask people who have to carry oxygen tanks around with them. That's not necessarily a lot of fun, right, Norm? It's not something you want to have to do if you have lungs.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to be efficient.
Give the lungs something to do. No, I think initially you're going to have to do it your way.
Yeah, because it sounds like if you do it your way, we're going to lose all the water before we know how to hold it to the planet. It'll be liberated and then it'll float off into space and we'll have to collect it out by Jupiter or something.
We need to simulate the atmosphere process over time and look at, try nukes, try EMFs, try something to jumpstart the magnetic field.
How do we give Mars, the planet, a vote?
Do you have a Martian psychic that can talk to planetary intelligences?
Oh, there you go. Now you're talking.
Somebody who talks to the planets directly.
Planet whisperer.
Yeah, we have a few of those on this planet in our species at the very least, right?
Any Mars whisperers out there, feel free to call.
831-265-5050. If you are a Mars whisperer, which I'm sure there are out there that would want to talk to the likes of us, is another question.
Yeah, that's right.
Sasha Noble is an expert at NASA.
You're right. We do have our very own Mars whisperer.
He is a Martian atmosphere expert.
Thank you for reminding us.
Right, studied at UC Santa Cruz here.
Okay, so we'll get Sasha to consult Mars about their vote for Marsiforming plans.
What's his thoughts on terraforming is what it comes down. It's a good party conversation.
Definitely.
Because terraforming is that radical edge between being yin and being yang in terms of the forces that you bring to bear on creating a habitable planet. And part of the equation, like with the Earth, is not just the will of our species or will of humanity, but what is the intelligences of the planet itself feel about being modified by us crazy monkeys?
Yeah, Pachamama.
Right? Yeah. So how do you communicate with them?
And how do we, as crazy monkeys, do our job to make the planet better instead of worse with the time that we have here?
Well, better.
Yeah.
Better. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean for us?
Right.
That's what we're thinking.
Well, I think we like it when everything's green and wonderful.
Right.
We like it when it rains when it's supposed to and the plants are happy. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and meanwhile, with us not there, it's perfect for what it is. The other approach as well is not just to change the planet to suit us, but to change us to suit the planet. So we start to develop biology that thrives in a carbon dioxide atmosphere, for example. What kind of, plants, right? So we'd probably create some kind of sentient plant to put our consciousness in, to be on Mars as a natural something that can handle the CO2 atmosphere.
You'd rather go as a plant than a robot?
A robot that has photosynthesis, perhaps. It's photosynthetic skin.
You want to be
photosynthetic
in a biobot.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. Yeah.
there you go.
Why leave out the biology? Why leave out the biology? Unless you have to.
I expect you to take everything that works.
Yeah.
And even some stuff that doesn't. Just as an experiment.
Also lighter, because it's a much smaller planet. You'd weigh 1/3 as much.
Thought you might want to share some of your Netflix secrets.
You want some secrets?
Yeah.
You want to tell some secrets here?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so Dr. Future
No,
found
I do also have our comedian friend here too.
Oh, so I guess
Yeah,
we're still
give me a
talking
couple
about
secrets. Yeah, give me a couple secrets, and then I'll give you.
They're your secrets. You're the one who checked it out. But I think you're right. I think we should start with the final commentary on robots, because not all humans are pro-robots, but there actually are some humans that are. And we had a great time watching Bill Maher last week, and his guest, Whitney Cummings, who is an amazing comedian who before now had been off our radar, but she is a pro-robot comedian.
Yeah,
and
she made a robot of herself and brought it on stage for a Netflix comedy scene. I want to play you a minute of that.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Go.
Right here.
So I'm talking to a guy that makes the robots, and he was like, do you want us to make a robot with your face on it? And I was like, ugh, yes. I'm actually in the market for an engagement gift for my fiance. So Washington, D.C., you are the first crowd to meet Robot Whitney.
This is where she reveals a actual robot that kind of looks like her.
She's dressed the same way. She's got her hair done the same way. And she's got that uncanny valley. She's blinking her eyes.
Yeah. Not nearly as facially expressive as a real person.
Well, this is 4 years ago. This is 2019.
Right. 5 years ago.
And they're standing next to each other. It's hilarious. Yeah. Two twins, a girl and her robot.
What does she say? Poses like the robot.
So I don't know if she just looks really human or if I've just always looked like a robot. But I would like for you to say hello to this lovely audience.
Hey, hookers.
I had to do it. I didn't expect this problem, but it's weirdly hard to name a robot that looks like you. Calling her Robot Whitney just sounds too narcissistic. What should we call you, lady?
Please call me Bear Claw.
Bear Claw?
Okay. We probably shouldn't do too much of this.
So I thought it would be hilarious to get this made and give it to my fiance, but he hates it.
Oh,
he's
there
like,
you
I don't
go.
like this. This is weird. It's creeping me out. She just like stares at me all day. I'm like, oh, really? Something staring at you, making you uncomfortable? Now you know what it's like to be a woman all the time.
Okay, so we'll just stop there. Anyway, Whitney Cummings, and this is her Netflix comedy special. It's totally hilarious. I'm a huge fan now. Never heard of her before last week, but she's a kindred
Well, that was her
spirit now.
favorite. That was what she became famous for, was that
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
skit. So it's how the robots are now making their way in. And as the humanoid robots come online, that's going to be what one of the things is a companion, right? Be a companion.
Right. And of course, you do have a link about Tesla robots and stuff, but I think it might be more fun to talk about Netflix.
Okay.
Actually, see, Tesla today is going through the roof. Like, I just checked the stocks again, and they're going up and up and up. And Netflix, for some reason, today is going down and down and down. I don't know why, but c'est la vie. That's what's happening.
Okay, so basically the Netflix secret category codes, they're a unique set of numerical identifiers that Netflix himself uses for looking at genres and subgenres in their library.
Mm-hmm. So you can discover more stuff somehow if you familiarize yourself with this secret language.
If you know this language, you're not constrained to the genres available to you from the main Netflix menu. That's what we're all constrained to right now.
Pull back the curtain.
There's no way to choose by specific category other than what's been chosen for you when you log on.
Huh.
And using these codes now, this opens up an entire library of options for you to choose.
It's like they're letting you into the back room, huh?
It's like having access to the card catalog. It's something you should have anyway.
Yeah. Why didn't they let you do that anyway?
Well, it's because it's a little overwhelming and it's kind of nerdy. Like if you want martial arts movies, you go to 8985.
Oh, I see. So this really is a code system.
If you like westerns, it's 7700.
Got to have your spy ring.
Right, you got to know that. Or spy movies 10702.
Wow, that's interesting. Katya was always complaining that all the French foreign films disappeared off of Netflix or something, but it looks like they're still there.
Yeah, well, that's a good
you just
question.
need to know the code.
If you know the codes, you can see if they really are still there. They just take them out.
Movies right there.
Well,
they've got 21 codes for foreign movies.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's not really an all-encompassing Netflix secret menu per se, but it's more like it's a menu where you use URLs with special codes to access movies. It's not the usual.
How do you use these codes?
Well, that's listed in this article. It tells you in detail. And Netflix-codes.com has a good list.
Okay.
As well. Netflix-codes.
Okay.
Capital C.
All right, so you find these codes and then you somehow submit them to Netflix and it reveals her secrets.
Yeah, like if you want movies directed by women, that's code 2974953.
Oh, like a phone number.
You want a supernatural soap? Go to 812-38162.
All right.
Wow. See? So you're not relying solely on the standard homepage categories or the Netflix algorithm.
Wow.
These codes will be able to pinpoint.
Oh, here you go. Award-winning movies. 89844.
That's a major category. Award-winning movies. Right. 89844.
But award-winning TV programs are 89814. Ooh, that's a clue.
What about documentaries? You know I love documentaries.
Oh, now we'll have to check out 93108.
93108. There you go. That gives you an idea. And if you go to our drfutureshow.com/links page, you can look up our Netflix code article and find them all yourself.
Wow, I'm there.
All right. Well, that's going to be fun. Can't wait to explore that a little bit.
So just to finish,
the last minute here, you're going to give us
I just want to think that that you're going to see more about the robots. The big one from Tesla, of course, is the Optimus, and they're thinking it's going to be the most valuable product in history, and that it's going to generate $10 trillion in revenue over the next 10 years.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. It'd be perfect for Taylor because it could drive his car. It could do your dishes. It could do everything.
Yeah, and its IQ increased from 85 to 140 just in 6 months. From 85 to 140. It's a standard. So there you go. So more next week, folks. Enjoy. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, son.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was fun, everybody. Thanks for a great show.